Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're taking a look at the Kurfürst. Two matches I've got for you where we just full send it into the enemy team. Brawling it out, secondaries, all that goodness. Kurfürst, one of the older battleships in this game, can still work out reasonably well. It's just very difficult. These are two of my best matches I've had in a very long time in the Kurfürst, and they just happen to work out pretty well for us. The commander build, of course, we are going with secondaries on this thing, but not completely. I have gone with main guns on the upgrade slots, and that seemed to give us 20,000 damage there from that salvo, somehow. Not sure if that's gonna be normal. In fact, that's not normal for a Kurfürst. It's very lucky to hit that on a Conqueror that's angled. Now, it's all into his superstructure. GK usually struggles with its main guns, though. That's why running these secondaries, playing at closer ranges is so important, especially in the next game. You're going to see that at least half of our damage actually comes from our secondaries. So they're very, very important for Kurfürst to actually engage the enemy team. This ship has pretty weak guns overall. They're 420 or 406 or 420 millimeter guns, and they don't have the best dispersion. Reload's just okay on them, and these turret angles, especially the rear turrets trying to fire forward, are just terrible. They're so bad. It makes it very difficult to push in and actually make use of them. So a lot of the time, I'm actually going to just not use them at all. I'm going to pretend I'm a 6-gun battleship and try and push in while staying angled properly to the enemy team. We're going to be varying our positioning here just because of the torpedoes. No hydro makes it a little difficult to dodge, but if you're going in a straight line for a little while, probably a good idea to start a turn of some kind. You're not always going to dodge torps that way, but sometimes you can get lucky, like I did just there where the Shima actually missed. Secondary is, of course, going to full pen 32 millimeters of armor, so this Baltimore is going to get torn up, as well as the Conqueror. That's really what I'm wanting to see here, is actually our secondaries just rip into this Conqueror. Typically, you don't have that opportunity, so it's always nice to see a Kurfürst actually getting that opportunity to find a Conqueror at close range and just go to town. Typically, they're a little farther away from you, so there's really not that opportunity. They're usually the ones burning you down, and you feel like there's not much you can do. This time, it might just be the other way around. But again, main guns only using the front ones here. Trying to stay disciplined on that. As much as I do want to use our rear guns, it's really important that we do stay angled. Conqueror could swap over to the AP at any time, even though he's still using the HE, that's fine, but it is very dangerous. You can easily take 40k, something like that, if you expose your broadside at these ranges. It's pretty scary stuff. Secondaries, though, you do want to wait until the target is dead before you swap. That's kind of a new feature of this secondary, manual secondary skill. It's been in the game for a while, so I say new feature. It's been in for a while, but you retain more of your secondary accuracy that you've built up if you let the target that you've been firing your secondaries on actually die first before you swap. It seems like it'd be more efficient, especially if the target is on, you know, less than 1,000 HP and you got a lot of secondaries in the air, that you should swap your target early, but you do lose a significant chunk of your secondary accuracy built up on manual secondaries if you are going to swap early. So it's a little hard to tell, but that's the reason I didn't actually swap as quickly over to the Kurfürst here. I got another massive hit into his superstructure there too, by the way, with our main guns. Don't expect that on the Kurfürst. Don't expect that at all. This is definitely an anomaly, I would say. If you want to play something accurate, well, look at yesterday's video with the Bungo, perhaps, or other things like Vermont. Even in Ohio, yeah, that one can brawl as well, but a little more accurate than the Kurfürst, certainly. And we are going to continue to push out into the enemy spawn here. This is typically where we're going to die a lot of the time. In a Kurfürst or any ship, really. I usually advocate for retreating, maybe coming back towards the middle contest cap, that kind of thing, not pushing the enemy spawn, because you really do just open yourself up to the entire enemy team, and you're going to see that here. But I really wanted to take this Conqueror down with our GK here. The secondaries can aim along the border here, so we are actually getting some decent hits in, and I'll try and aim my main guns. I don't know if I actually led that correctly. It's a little tricky on the border, but I think our secondaries actually will finish him off here. So just a full send around the horn here on the north side of this map, and we managed to deal with a few of the enemy ships. Although now we're taking a torpedo, and we are about to die. But a pretty fun push. Kurfürst Maybe not the most recommended ship anymore, especially since it's for coal now. There's a lot of other coal ships that I would get before the GK. In fact, if you want to just full YOLO push, Schlieffen is probably just much better for you if you're trying to do that kind of thing. Especially if you can do it in ranked or something like that, where it's a little easier with less ships on the board, a little more space to actually maneuver. Pushing into the enemy spawn like this, yeah, it's definitely not going to survive all that long. But 2 close quarters experts in this game, not too bad. And quick little AP salvo there, and we are pretty much done. Decent first game, though. The next one is even better, I think. I'm actually just going to full send the middle of the map first this time. This first game, we'll send it around the north. It worked out reasonably well, but what if we just sent the B cap early on in a match? Literally spawn in, push W key, and go. This Des Moines certainly wouldn't be expecting a Kurfürst to be entering the B cap first. You'd probably think, oh, that's just a DD in the B cap, right? Nope. Nope, it's a GK. I don't quite get this salvo in time, unfortunately, so some of it hits the island. But that had potential for Dev Strike, maybe, if we look very optimistically at these Kurfürst guns. But we do still manage to get ourselves a Citadel. Now, positioning yourself is very important if you're going to be pushing in like this. It seems like there's no method to it, but there really is. I really want to get across the B cap, actually. That's kind of my entire goal here, is to get to the other side of the B cap and play along those islands. And that way I can lock off a lot of the enemy team from actually being able to shoot me here. I make some mistakes in this game, though. Positioning-wise, I do think I probably should have stayed in the B cap here. I just kind of full sent it in even further, but decent hit there on the enemy Kurfürst. And I am actually just going to get this cap. They actually just kind of gave it to me, so I will gladly take that. And I am going to make it across over to these islands. I think playing here would have been probably the best way to go about this match. I do great anyway in this match, but look at how many of my teammates are actually just kind of hanging out south of the A cap there. If I had stayed here and just crossfired the enemy ships in the A cap, trying to kill them early, and protected myself from the enemy ships towards the C cap, probably would have been a little bit better positioning overall, especially now that I'm looking back at this game. But in the moment, there wasn't a lot of brain power going on. It was just W key, W key, W key. Let's try and brawl somewhat. So we do find an Izumo here. Usually I find Izumos are just kind of bow in reverse against me, and that's kind of why I pushed out like this, just to try and get my secondaries all online, because they're going to be what actually kills this guy. Closer ranges like this, 32 mil pen on these secondaries, getting a few fires even, but really trying to proc Lucians to give us even more secondary DPM. This is, by the way, a legendary mod GK as well, so have some decent secondary DPM from that as well. So trying to just farm this guy out with our secondaries, but he actually pushes forward. Very interesting, good play, I think. Probably would have just died to the 1,000 cuts of these secondaries here. We even got 18k into our superstructure there. Might have been a little bit not angled belt properly as well. But a good hit from that Izumo. And you'll notice how he's pushing ahead to try and use this island to my right to actually prevent me from hitting him. Very, very good play by this guy. In fact, he even got my gun. Temporarily destroyed that. So a little annoying there to lose a turret as he's so close to us, but that's okay. We'll wait a little bit, use a heal, and then push it around on him when he's maybe not expecting it. Again, getting his broadside here, and just like that, our back guns cannot fire because I've actually turned too much. It is a little frustrating. I'm not going to lie. It is a little frustrating, these turret angles, using a GK. So using a Preussen, using a Schlieffen, Ohio, all these things are just going to be much easier when it comes to brawling it out and having better turret angles. And now we're kind of just solo pushing the enemy team in the C cap here. We don't have a lot of support. This is kind of where I say I should have kind of stayed towards the B cap more. Used the island as protection from these guys, forced them to push around on me, and then used my firepower. Even if it's not great at range, it's still decent enough to help my teammates in the A cap there to finish that off a little bit quicker. But I've decided to push, so here we are, trying to deal with the cruiser first, and secondaries on him. I probably should have waited, actually. Patience is something you probably need a little more of in the GK than I'm displaying here, but shooting at an angled Drake here, Really didn't get much damage at all. I probably should have just waited for him to go broadside for torps. It's pretty obvious that that's what you're going to want to do in a cruiser like that, as well as duck behind the island, right? I gave him the opportunity to turn out flat broadside to me and actually get behind the island just because I shot too early. A little more patience there, probably would have been able to finish him off there. We get very fortunate that the main doesn't actually get anything into our belt armor, so it's just overpens into our superstructure there. So a little scary. Yamato salvo as well also goes a little high, getting quite lucky, although my front turret is permanently taken out. Unfortunately, we actually rolled low on our turret HP this game, I guess. If you didn't know, it's actually a random number of HP that you actually get on your turrets, torpedo tubes. So if you feel like some games you actually lose your turrets more often, and other games it seems like they never die, or your torp tubes, same thing. Yeah, it is totally random. That's a fun mechanic. Now you know, and you'll always be thinking about that. I am sorry. Yamato broadside here. GK, I mean, it's a GK rear guns only, so one Citadel is fine. I would have liked to see a little bit more, considering Yamato has such a massive Citadel, but that's still 243,000 damage in this game, and counting. We actually had a fire, so we actually get 260 nearly, and most of that is going to be in secondary and fire damage. Notice we didn't shoot any HE here, and that's where a lot of that damage is actually going to come from, is those fires as well as that full pen secondary damage. So 61,000 damage, 62,000 damage from the secondaries, as well as 69,000 in fires. Pretty nice. As for the build here on the GK, it is very greedy, I would say. Running a full secondary build these days is pretty difficult. You're giving up a lot, and the ship isn't always going to be able to brawl. Most of my games don't go as well as these two. That's why I'm showing you them, because it's fun to see a GK actually being able to work some of the time. So yeah, going full secondaries here, both upgrades here on the commander. We're also using Adrenaline Rush, and I'm using Repair Party, Improved Repair Party Readiness here, just because that's going to give us that 5th heal in games where we actually survive long enough to actually make use of it. 4 heals is more than enough if we're dead before 2 million potential damage. If we make it past 2 million potential damage, though, then we get that extra heal, and we actually gain 1 commander point over using Emergency Repair Expert here. And I'm actually going to use that to either take Preventive Maintenance or take Emergency Repair Specialist, getting us closer to our damage control and that heal as well. So a little bit helpful there. Concealment Expert here to allow us to get into range a little bit easier without being spotted the whole time. Also, salvos from battleships that are undetected are just a little more valuable than salvos from battleships that are detected. Easier to surprise people. People might forget where you are. So not taking FP though, very risky. Very, very risky. I don't think this is good, but I'm still testing it out. This patch I've kind of just decided to say, well, let's try out some of these new skills. Heavy AP, Furious, running secondary builds that give me more points to take other upgrades that might help me stay alive or do more damage, and not take fire prevention. See how it works. And it's worked out in a few games, but I mean, there's certainly going to be other games where I actually die, so not sure about FP yet. It's still probably one of the best skills you can take on a battleship, especially one as big as the Kurfürst. Yeah, running ledge mod is a little rough as well into random battles, just because 19 kilometers of range really hurts these days, just with how passive things tend to be. If you're playing the ship into, well, asymmetric of course, but also ranked battles, maybe this would be a decent thing to run, having both main gun and secondary battery reload improved at the same time at the cost of range, instead of running main battery or auxiliary armaments, for example. You also get turret traverse back, since main armaments here would give you a 13% penalty to your main gun turret traverse, where this one is range. So your turrets are actually faster to turn with like mod over reload mod, for example. So something to consider there as well. I wasn't actually running main armaments mod 1 here, so it is possible I could have prevented my main guns from being destroyed a little bit more, but typically they don't. And your secondaries staying alive is pretty nice as well. So keep in mind, preventive maintenance actually does that now as well, especially on Lucians here being improved. It's 20% extra to survivability as well. So they do stay alive a little bit longer, which is nice to see. hydro mod, and I am running accuracy mod, although sometimes I feel like I should just run a full secondary because the guns are just so inconsistent anyway. They kind of randomly do damage, it feels like. So may as well get the extra range, maybe? I don't know. That kind of is the dilemma with the GK. It always feels like there's something missing with this ship when I play it. It works out sometimes, and then the other 60 to 80% of the time where I'm just dead early on and there's nothing I could really do outside of, you know, just not full send it into people, I guess. It feels like the ship is missing a little something, but whether it's turret angles of those rear turrets or the superstructure just being so big and taking so much damage, I don't know. But it can work out if people kind of miss your superstructure or hit your belt at the right angle and you are able to use those secondaries enough. It can do some serious damage. It's just kind of difficult, of course. So I hope you guys enjoyed a couple fun matches in the GK. It's nice to see it actually working every once in a while here in 2023. It's pretty rare to see that, I would say, at least for me when I'm playing it. So thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.